What should Facebook's next move be here? For more, I'm joined by Alex Stamos, director of the Stanford Internet Observatory and the former chief security officer at Facebook. And Casey Newton is Silicon Valley editor at The Verge. And it's great to have you both here. Casey, let's start with the specifics of the Facebook situation. What would happen if they said to the employees who staged a walkout, "You're fired"?
Well, I think that would be tough for them to do because the whole issue is about freedom of expression, right? Facebook elected to keep some posts from the president up, and some Facebook employees have decided to post about that publicly. So I think, honestly, in that narrow sense, the employees have forced Facebook's hand here.
In general, the issue with Mark Zuckerberg seems to be that he is pro-political speech and not policing it. And that's an unpopular stance. But does it have merit? As we see with Twitter trying to go after, political speech. I think they flagged another one of the maybe it was a Republican senator or congressman's tweets over the past 24 hours. But they're doing it very slowly, kind of case by case. Does Facebook want to wade into that?
Well, no is the answer, right? We would prefer to live in a world where our elected officials weren't threatening violence against their own citizens on social platforms. And ultimately, I think that is really the most surprising thing here and probably the thing that deserves the most attention. But different platforms are going to make decisions about where are there red lines that cannot be crossed. And as you note, Twitter has been more willing to weigh in on this than Facebook has. And it is the fact that Twitter has weighed in, I think, that has galvanized some of these Facebook employees who want to see their employer take more action.
Alex, it was interesting because one of the things that Mark Zuckerberg said was that if Twitter really thought that these tweets were inciting violence, they should have gotten rid of them altogether. These social networks have a policy where things are literally inciting violence. You're not allowed to post that. So they're saying, in other words, that they think Twitter is trying to have it both ways.
Well, I don't think that's a good argument from Facebook. Facebook does mark things as being disputed, and they do put what are called interstitials. So they make people click through to see certain posts in certain circumstances. And I think Twitter's approach here has been appropriate. There's actually a bigger problem here, which is you can't deplatform the president of the United States, right? Everything he says is newsworthy. And so this is a struggle that the social media companies are dealing with, but also the traditional media. So the big New York Times article criticizing Facebook for this also reposted the Facebook post, right? You see Trump being criticized for clearing out people from Lafayette Park, which I think is a totally appropriate criticism. But then the TV channels play that clip over and over again of the photo op that he wanted to get. And I think a lot of people are struggling with how do you allow speech and how do you report on things that are newsworthy without amplifying it? I think Twitter's approach here is actually pretty appropriate.
Alex, one broader question as well, which is, the president's response, which has been to say, I believe at one point he tweeted even repeal Section 230. What would be the wider implications of removing that status, or what categories would you then have to kind of put all of these content platforms under?
So this is a very complicated topic, and almost every politician who talks about Section 230 gets it wrong. So Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act is a very fundamental law that basically says that platforms are not responsible for the speech that people put up on them, with some specific exceptions. Those exceptions being copyright issues, child pornography, some other really bad issues. But for the vast majority of stuff you post, if you don't like something, you have to sue the person who wrote it. Now, Section 230 is actually completely irrelevant to this speech, because this is core First Amendment protected political speech. So if there was no Section 230, Facebook would have no liability for carrying the president's words, right, nor would they probably face liability for taking it down, although that's less understood at this point. Threatening 230 is something that a lot of politicians do because they know it's an important law, but it's not really relevant to political speech. It's like threatening CNBC on a health code violation for your building to try to change your editorial policy. The law isn't actually relevant to the editorial policy itself.